Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to show you how I changed this very narrow pantry in the kitchen into a walk-in pantry. That will be a later video, but today I will show you what I do with the other side. So here you can see what the pantry used to look like. It was about maybe 7 inches deep, and here is the hallway behind that area. So here's my dad. He turns 90 years old in 2023 in April, and he's helping me a little bit on this project. First of all, this whole part of the hallway was built in 2008. What had happened is the house that we live in was built around 1910. And then around the 1940s or 50s, they built an addition. And the addition started sloping away from the house. And in 2007 or 6 maybe, my parents came to visit me and they were complaining about how the house was falling apart and they didn't know what to do. So I said, how about if I pay for the addition, or at least most of it, and then I can have a mother-in-law suite above the garage? And they said, great idea. So, I just got a message, sorry about that. So I said, when I came back and I saw it all done, it was really great, except I didn't know what this hallway was for. So there are 2 doors right next to each other. One of them goes into the kitchen, and the other one goes into this hallway that for a few years was used for storage and the kitty litter, and that was about it. So sadly, the cat has gone to kitty cat heaven. And so I said to my parents, this whole area is wasted. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm taking off the trim and I'm trying to keep it in nice condition because I want to reuse it. Nowadays, lots of the contractors put a bead of silicone on top of it to make it look more beautiful and also to keep crumbs from going in the back. And I actually think it looks so much better that way. So carefully, I'm taking this back, and later I use it to fill in the same areas, but I use it for mostly the same area, but a little bit different. Anyway, you'll see it at the end of this. So I take this off, and there are there are nails. And you can see the door that opens up. If you look on the left, there's the other door. Right? That's very strange. If you've watched my other channel programs before, you'll see this side yard is where I do a lot of the work. And it's very nice that we have a 2-car garage. That in the past we had only a 1-car garage and it had a bigger side yard. Now there's a car that was driving into the driveway. They were just turning around. So here is some of the wall that I took off on the other side of the wall pantry. Anyway, so I'm just putting things away so I can find them later. And I do use up a lot of this. Luckily, my friend down south was redoing some of her house, and I got to take a lot of her parts, which I did use. Anyway, so you can see now there is a hole from the hallway going into the kitchen once I remove all of this wood. So it took me, I'd say about 3 days to get rid of all of this pantry. And the reason for that is because these are 2x8s that my dad had for other reasons. So he put the whole pantry together. He then lifted it into the hole because this is where the new house and the old house connects. So he put the new pantry in because the old pantry was the same diameter around, but the depth was about, I'd say, 4 feet. And so when they put in the new hallway, they took away that. So the pantry that my parents had been using since 2008 was about this deep, about 6 or 7 inches. Also noted that the flooring, that's this old, horrible linoleum or whatever it is in the kitchen, it was put down in the early 80s. And then the other side where the hallway is, that was put in 2008. In November, there's going to be, or in a month from now, there's going to be a company who's going to put in white oak solid wood flooring that is about 2.5 inches because it's an older home and that fits the style of the homes around here. So you can see I am just trying to get rid of all of the very thick wood, and I'm piling it all up into bags to bring down to the dump later on. And I kind of take little breaks and put little pieces in there. So, okay, here's the back. So this is what it looks like if you go back a little bit. My next door neighbor, she gave me the door for free, so I just stained it a little bit darker. These are all pieces of cedar that I bought from Marketplace, or no, I think it was Craigslist. Yes, it was Craigslist. I bought all of this cedar. There was more than this, so this is like half of it for $100. I think maybe around 2010. I was living overseas, but I still look on Craigslist to see what kind of good deals there were. And I called my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad, go buy this cedar. It's amazing." And I think the guy who was selling it bought a house. And the people who had purchased the house or had the house before he purchased it, we were making a steam room, like the finished steam rooms, whatever they're called, and these were all left over, or he didn't want it, so he didn't need any of this. So I went through them all. These were stored in the shed in the backyard, and when I brought them all into the garage, they were covered with not so many bugs, but enough bugs that I kept them in the garage and then cleaned them all up, and I removed any kind of nails that were in them, which there weren't that many nails, and then any kind of weird parts of it, I either removed it from the wood or I sanded it off. Now here are some 2x4s, and they were also in the backyard, so they're not 100% straight, but what I'm using them for, it doesn't matter. So here is where the closet is going to be on the left from where I'm standing right here, and on the right-hand side is going to be a walk-in pantry. And next month, I will post the finished pantry. Now, it's 95% finished. There is that door, and I want to get rid of the door. However, right now I'm busy doing other things. So I put these 2x4s in to support the wood, and the cedar is amazing because it's a linking kind of cut. So the wood just linking by itself is pretty sturdy, but I do add some nails and screws to keep it a little bit sturdier. But the plan is that the wall is mostly for just separating the two areas and to look nice. Now, when I was planning this, I planned to have a door on the closet side. But after I talked to my father, he said he didn't want a closet. I'm like, oh, I was not paying attention at all to how straight the wood was because I was just putting it up. It looks fine. And if you open up a closet door, do you really notice how straight the wood is behind it? Nobody cares. There's clothes, there's things back there. But my dad said he didn't want a door, so I was a little bit horrified by that. And then I put all the stuff I wanted to put in there. And then, of course, it looks messy. Because if you just have a bunch of boxes and you have a bunch of things not covered over, it looks bad. So then once I finished the closet, which you're going to see after the very end. So if you just turn off the video after Projects with Paula, little jingle, then you won't see it. At the very end, my dad said he wanted to get a curtain to cover it up. And I just think that's so inefficient because nobody really slides the curtain open and closed all the time. So inevitably it will stay open. So I went to Costco and I purchased some see-through boxes, which makes it look a little bit better organized. So here's the bottom where I'm going to start putting all my pieces of wood up. So here you go, bit by bit. And so I measure the little pieces and I add that to the either side. Now coming up here, you'll see I made a little mistake. My parents start talking to me, and so I don't pay attention and I put two little ones on top of each other. You can see it on the right where that dark piece is. You'll see another one. Yeah, I know. After I finish the whole thing, I'm like, oh, that's not perfect. But you know what? What do I always say? Only God's perfect. Or I say nobody's perfect. Just try your best. And now this whole area is being used for something rather than just unorganized stuff to throw. So you can see the pieces of wood. They do slide into each other. And I am very pleased that I got this wood for $100. It is great. So after this project, I still had probably about 10 pieces left that were not in that great of condition that I gave away on Craigslist. I just put it on the front of the house. I also had some cedar, old fence posts, fence planks, which I didn't want either. I gave it away. Of course, it was taken in like a minute, which I'm glad. Recycle, reuse. And then I did keep for myself about 4 of these pieces of wood, which I used to make a small little, see here is where I'm doing it a small and small because I was videotaping it and not paying attention, and my parents started talking to me, and so I'll just use them as an excuse. So I used some of this wood also to put a little tiny nook. So here you can see the back of it. This is the pantry that we'll be doing next. The door will go out. That will be its own video. Now I am making, you know where you put the rods for clothes, a clothes rod? What's that called? A clothes hanger rod? Well, I went to the store and they were about $10, and my dad said, you can just make your own. Okay, my dad does not talk like that, but my dad said, yes, you can just make your own. So we have all the things in the garage. There is a press that you just put the drill bit in, and it will make a hole in wood. So right now I'm putting it in the center of the wood, the little X, so I know where to drill it down. I do that on both of these. Now, I was going to make 2 rods. My mother has osteoporosis, and she's like one of those ladies that you see that is kind of hunched over, so she can't look very high up. So the rod is a lot lower than it normally would be for the typical person. So I was going to put a higher one up, but then my dad said he didn't want to because we don't have enough clothes for that. He wants a shelf. So then my friend who's doing her, anyway, I'm showing here, one of them's for the light and one of them's to turn on the machine. So my friend who's redoing her house had a whole bunch of old shelving, so I took those and then I used them for the house. Once again, I love recycling. I love reusing. I will give a tour of the overhead over the garage apartments, and everything's almost reused stuff. So anyway, here's me using the back of the wood. So I did both sides to take the little piece of wood out, and the little drill is a little dull. So if you see any steam coming out, yeah, it's getting too hot. It's not working as well as it should. As I mentioned before in videos in the past, if you haven't seen them, feel free to go back and look at them. My dad hasn't used his garage a lot because the house was relatively done. So now I'm using everything again. So this is a router that my dad made to fit into this place. Normally we take it off and put it on the sawhorses, but I wanted to try and see what this was like. And my dad said that problem is it makes all the dust come underneath as well. Don't forget to use your ear protection and eye protection. And now with the little pieces of wood that the rod's going to go into, I am going to make it a little bit round so it's prettier, and I just love using this tool anyway. So yeah, if you live next to me and you wanted me to do this for you, I could do it all day long. I think it's so much fun. And afterwards, it just looks so pretty. So here I sped it up a little bit because, doing it at normal speed is a little bit boring for many people to watch. When I watch videos, I often will speed it up if the person's not talking. So you can see it's rounded there. And so I'm going to sand off any little pieces that were left on. And I did make 4 of these, so the other 2 that weren't needed, I brought to the restore. I tied them together. And when you look at the picture, you'll see them holding up the rod. And here's a trick about the rod. My dad told me, instead of buying a nice rod, a big, stick of wood to put up the rods, you buy the mop handles. They are only $8 and they work perfectly. So that's my tip for the day. So I cleaned it all up. And here you're going to see the rod that was from a mop handle that was brand new for like $8 at Lowe's, and the 2 sides. And then all of the area that was hanging up stuff here is now there. Now, after this project with Paula, you'll see what it looks like now. So all of the storage, and I'm pretty sure we're going to keep it like this. My mom and dad's coats, then my friend's shelf, and all the storage. So thanks for watching, and have a great day. I hope you think this turned out as well as I did. And don't forget, nobody's perfect.